Start. If you stay invested in the capital market, you need not pay any capital gains tax. This is what has been proposed by the expert group constituted to give recommendations on reorganization of Income Tax Act. In other words, if the amount of appreciation in the value of assets is withdrawn, no capital gains tax is payable. It is only if the principal amount is withdrawn will investor be liable to pay capital gains tax. The capital gains on financial assets of which the investor is a registered or beneficial owner will be deemed to be long-term provided the asset is held for 180 days after registration. In case the asset is not registered, the profit or loss will be deemed to be of speculative nature and profits will be taxed accordingly. Losses will be set off only against income from speculation. In an innovative scheme for taxation of capital gains in respect of gains from the sale of financial assets, an investor will be required to declare the entire block of such assets and its actual cost, or at his option he can substitute the same for the fair market value of the assets as on March 31, 1990. Of all the assets held on that date and which continues to be retained, the actual or deemed cost of the entire block so arrived will be indexed on the basis of cost inflation index for the year preceding the year in which the law comes to force. For assets acquired subsequent to March 31, 1990, the actual indexed tax cost of assets held up to the commencement of new law will be added to the block. No further indexation shall be available once the full block is determined. As and when new assets are bought, the actual cost will be added to the block, and if any assets are sold, the full sale proceeds will be deducted from the value of the block. As long as the value of the block of assets remains positive after taking into account all sales and purchases, there will be no capital gains tax. Liability to capital gains arise only when the value of the block of assets is reduced to negative after taking into account the sale proceeds, which will be to the extent of the negative value. The value of the block of assets can be made positive by further acquisition of financial assets before the end of the financial year. If subsequently further assets are sold, the entire sale proceeds will be taxable as long-term capital gain. In this context, I would like to say that convention should always be kept in mind while establishing relation or signing treaties with the superpowers, be it in the social, economic, or cultural field. I also agree with the opinion of Sri Basu regarding the example of big powers. Actually, he has put forward the practical aspect so that our country's prestige can be maintained. As far as Pepsi Cola is concerned, this government has been forced to continue the policy of the previous government. The common man in India feels that setting up of multinationals in India is detrimental to our country's interest. Pepsi Cola should be asked to leave this country. Honorable Basu mentioned some deficiencies in the Pepsi Cola project. The company has violated certain rules and regulations, and the government should issue a notice for the same. On the basis of the previous government's policy, this government has not been able to categorically state that multinationals will not be allowed to exist in this country. I want to make it clear that we are against the setting up of multinationals in this country, whatever be their objective. The Ministry of External Affairs should take this into account while framing its policy. While drawing up a policy regarding non-Muslim immigrants from Bangladesh, their problems should be kept in mind. As far as the question of signing a treaty with Nepal is concerned, it should be done at the earliest. Nepal borders Uttar Pradesh and Bihar in India. After the lapse of this treaty, a number of practical difficulties have arisen. I would like to cite one of them. When our treaty with Nepal lapsed, a large number of workers of Nepal who work here as daily wages laborers returned to Nepal out of fear, despite the fact that we have religious and economic relations with Nepal from time immemorial. We should pay attention to strengthen our relations with neighboring countries. We should also take into account as to what are the views of the Nepal government with regard to India's security. We should also lend our support to the movement for democracy in Nepal. India should continue to cooperate with Nepal as it used to do in the past, so that a harmonious balance is established between the people and the monarchy in Nepal. I have all praise for the Ministry of External Affairs for recalling IPKF from Sri Lanka. With this step, crores of rupees have been saved, as also lives of our defense personnel have been saved. In the world of today, the importance of science cannot be overemphasized. It is only through science and technology that a reasonable standard of living can be provided to all. Science is a most powerful instrument for bringing about social change, for dispelling ignorance and superstition, and for fighting disease and poverty. In the modern world, science is the basis not only of material progress but also of social and cultural development. It is therefore imperative that all possible steps are taken to strengthen science education and research, and to promote what may be called scientific literacy among the people. The Education Commission, in its well known report published in 1966, had laid great emphasis on science education. It is essential that science is given an important place in education right from the pre-primary and primary stage. I would help to promote an enduring interest in science and scientific way of thinking. Special attention should be given to children of the backward sections of the community and to those in the rural areas. Scientific knowledge is expanding at an extremely rapid rate. Stop.